So your algebra homework. There's a lot of kind of patterns and terms and new things, and if you're a little confused, it's okay at this point. We're really early on in this unit, and there's a lot more practicing and hands-on stuff we have to do with manipulative still. So please don't feel stressed or way behind if you're struggling already. The main thing is I'm really just trying to get an accurate idea of how good you are at this stuff already. And so we're really seeing it. Can you create patterns? Can you understand what nth terms look like? Because this is stuff that you have probably seen before, and I just want to see where we should really begin focusing. So for the first question, I'm just going to do one example. I'll do B. Now, the rule was 3n plus 1, and what they want you to do is sub in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then complete that kind of table. So for 3n plus 1, we have n, we have 3n plus 1, and they made a table. Now if n is 1, what I have here is 3 times 1 plus 1. 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1, so that equals 4. So all you would need to put in that chart is 4. That shouldn't be a negative 4, it should just be a 4. Now, if you continue this, 2 would be 3 times 2 plus 1. So 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And then 3. 3 is going to be 3 times 3 plus 1. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. And you're going to notice that this trend continues. It goes up by 3, it goes up by 3. Now, 4 is going to be 13, 5 is going to be 16, and 6 is going to be 19. Now, it also asks you to say the pattern begins with, well, this pattern begins with 4. And to get to the next term, what do you have to do? You need to add 3. So the pattern rule would be start at 4, add 3 each time. And that's something you've done for a long time now, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but just make sure that you can formulate a pattern rule when you're given a pattern. Now number 2 uses the pattern 7, 9, 11, 13, 15. Those are the first 5 terms. This is term number 1, that's term number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5. Now, it says to describe the pattern and write a rule. Well, that's the same formula as before. We start at 7 and add 2 each time. So there's your pattern rule. Pretty straightforward. Use the table to find the 10th term. From the table, the 10th term is, and you would just fill in that table. First term is 7, second is 9, 11, 13, 15, and you would complete the table the way they have it. So 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, you would just, 6 would be 17, 19, 21, 23, 25. And now it says to write an expression for the nth term. That means give me a rule with a variable in it so I could just put any number in. Let's say we didn't know what number we wanted to find yet. How would we do it? Now, remember, there's 2 questions you need to ask yourself is, what changes? And right now we know the change is that we're adding 2 each time, right? So there's a positive 2 as your change. And then this is kind of a what doesn't change. Well, in the first term, if we have 2 of it, if 2 is what's changing, then 5 is what's left over. Another way of thinking about that is, what would happen if I went back one further? 15, 13, 11, 9, 7, 5 would be where I ended up. So 5 is the part that's not really changing, right? There's 5 all along. So 5 is what's not changing, positive 5 in fact. So if it's changing, it's going plus 2 for each term number. That's how much it's growing by. So it's plus 2 for each term number, plus this original 5. that would be my nth term. If you're not super good at this yet, please don't worry, because there's a lot of different ways to go about solving this, and we're going to kind of go with all of them. But this is just kind of helping you if you're struggling. So I will always like to check. So I'll pick randomly the fourth term. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 5 is 13. Just like it should be. 4 and 13 are the ones that go together. So I have a feeling this one works. And you can check all the way down. So that's my nth term, and it says use that expression to find the 50th term. So when n equals 50, this is going to be 2 times 50 plus 5 equals 100 plus 5 equals 105. So if you struggle finding an nth term, that's okay. I have all sorts of tricks, and I promise we'll make through it. You just have to keep doing the practice and keep working in class, and one of the methods that I use is going to stick. Question 3 is another one that a few people I know are going to ask about because it has to deal with fractions. But if you think about it, when you look at 1/2, 1/4, 1/6, 1/8, 1/10, the whole area here at the top, all the ones, they don't change at all. So I don't even have to try and solve the problem that way. I could just solve it like this. What changes between 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10? Well, that's a lot easier, right? It goes up by 2 each time, and I know that. Now, from there, it's pretty easy. If this is the first term, if this is the second term, if this is the third term, if this is the fourth term, well, I know this is twice as much, this is twice as much, this is twice as much, this is twice as much. So for every number, for every n, I need twice as much, 2n. Now, there's nothing really complicated about finding that. But if you want to follow the system that we'd kind of already talked about a little bit, and shown when we worked a little bit with manipulatives, was this plus 2 is how much it changes, so I know that's going to be 2n. And then I'd go back one more, and where would that bring me? 0. So I'm going to add 0. Now, adding 0 doesn't do anything, so it's the same as 2n. Either way, the way we found it over here or the way we found it over here will work. Now, the answer is not 2n, because if you look at it, these were all fractions. We only figured out how the bottom changes because we recognize that the top doesn't change. So the final answer will actually be 1, because the top didn't change, over 2n. And that would be the nth term. And so if I had 10, I'd just sub a 10 there. So 1 times 2 over 10 is going to be 1 over 20. So that would be the answer to 3b.